4, 3, 2, 1. Hello guys, my name is Lars Stender. I'm a writer from Denmark who specializes in science fiction and fantasy. I'm here today to read from my fantasy novel Mandigo and the Hellhounds. If you want to know more about me and my books, please follow me on Facebook. Mandigo and the Hellhounds, Chapter 64. The big hall was filled with people when Mandigo and Martyrdom emerged from behind the tapestry that concealed a passage down to Bloodstone's labyrinth. The Old Martero's servants who had survived were there, including the household steward Parso, his wife Magda, and the cook Gerner. They all stood assembled in a group in a corner and were closely guarded by foot soldiers dressed in chainmail and armed with halberds and swords. Other soldiers and knights were busy searching the keep. From what Mandigo could hear, they went about their task rather thoroughly. Over at another corner of the great hall, a couple of wizard apprentices were standing, among them Caspar and Jasper. However, there were no initiates to be seen. There didn't seem to be any small pupils either, but Mandigo knew that they had been sent down to the casemates for safety reasons before the battle had begun. "Hi Mandigo, we over here," Caspar said as he waved towards Mandigo. Several of the knights and soldiers span around when they heard Caspar shout and stared at Mandigo in surprise. Martyrdom had wisely taken the opportunity to once again make himself invisible. Mandigo remained standing where he was and waited with his hands folded in front of him as he observed the men in the hall. One of them stood apart and walked over to him. He was a tall, erect, muscular knight with long blonde hair and intelligent eyes set in a bearded face. "And who are you, young man? Answer fast, or I'll cut you down on the spot." He spoke loudly and clearly and was obviously used to being obeyed. He was wearing a valuable plate of armor over a silvery chainmail and a long plume-colored cape with a golden border draped his shoulders. "My name is Mandigo Nordring, son of Astero Nordring, the Duke of Argent, and Sylvain Sironai of the Elves," Mandigo replied calmly. The knight looked as if he received a blow to the face. He stared speechlessly at Mandigo for several seconds before he finally regained his voice. "Can you prove it?" Mandigo thought for a second and then got an idea. He slowly reached down and pulled out his father's sword, Steelshine, and held it above his head. He let his gift flow through the sword, which started to glow in a clear, blue-white light. "This is my father's sword, Steelshine," he said. "Steelshine!" The knight gasped, now gazing at Mandigo with a newly gained respect, almost reverence. "So the rumors are true. The Duke's long-lost youngest son has come back. Only a true Nordring could make Steelshine glow in that way, and I can attest that this is the right sword. I was there myself when your father fastened a jewel on the hilt," the knight said, pointing to a large sapphire that decorated the pommel. It had grown completely quiet in the hall. Everyone was staring at Mandigo and the tall knight. Mandigo frowned. "Who are you?" The knight smiled broadly. "My name is Roban, Count Roban of Windborg, to be precise. I served as page under your father. I won his favor and so he knighted me. I also knew your mother and your brother and sister, Grimwald and Helena." "Have you found her?" Mandigo asked eagerly as he lowered his sword. Count Roban looked at him uncomprehendingly. Mandigo explained to him how she had been transformed into one of Mateo's black hellhounds just before the battle due to his black magic. The Count's face grew dark. "We fought against many black dogs today. Some we killed, but most of them got killed by a pack of wolves that magically appeared and helped us. Each time one of them died, they would get it transformed back to humans that they weren't in truth. But we haven't come across any trace of your sister." "Your sister is not among the dead today, but exactly where she is a different story," a growling voice suddenly said in Mandigo's head. He looked up and caught sight of Magdan, who was standing at the doorway and looking at him. The humongous wolf's sudden appearance spread a momentary panic amongst the knights in the hall. But Count Roban reassured them. "Wait," he said. "I recognize this wolf. It led the pack that came to help us. It's special. Leave it alone. The soldiers lowered their weapons, and the big wolf strutted calmly into the hall and went out to stand next to Mandigo. It's clear that you two belong together, Count Roban said with a wry smile. This is Magdan, king of the forest, Mandigo explained. Count Roban nodded. I've heard of Magdan, he said. A wise old woman told me about him once. She was my first teacher. Her name was Greta. This time it was Mandigo's turn to gasp. Greta, my aunt. Count Roban smiled and nodded. How is she doing? Is she still teaching? Mandigo lowered his eyes. She is dead. I'm sorry to hear that, the Count said solemnly. Mandigo proudly lifted his head once again. She died fighting Mortero. Count Roban's face grew dark. Is that devil still alive? Mandigo shook his head. His gaze met Count Roban's, and the Count immediately understood. The walls and towers of Bloodstone were torn down, and the ruins were set ablaze. However, Mandigo managed to persuade Count Roban and his men to rescue the books in the great library before it was set on fire. Afterwards, salt was strewn on the ground surrounding the fortress, so that nothing could grow there. There were no initiates left at Bloodstone. Those who had taken part in the battle had either died or disappeared in all the confusion. Those whose corpses were found were cremated together with Rykard's corpses, and those of Mortero's henchmen who had also lost their lives. The youngest wizard apprentices had been sent down to the casemates to seek safety during the battle. They were escorted home to their families by Count Roban's men after they had sworn their loyalty to the Count. The Count and Mandigo spoke for a long time about what had happened. It appeared that the Count was well aware of Bellatrix's existence. The little girl and Greta had stayed with him for a short while during the flight from Mortero and his agents. When Mandigo explained that he had to leave to find Bellatrix before his brother Grimhild or any of Mortero's helpers got to her, Count Roban immediately offered his help. We'll travel together, he said. I'm slightly familiar with the countries to the south, and that will be useful during your journey. In addition, I have money and contacts which you don't, but your powers will, undoubtedly, be valuable should we run into any of those initiates or other villains on our way. Mandigo gladly accepted his offer. He had been all that nervous about traveling alone, but that thought of not having any money and not knowing anyone had been a concern to him. Undoubtedly, he would have been seriously hampered without the Count's help. Now everything looked different. Count Roban was an invaluable ally. It appeared that Caspar and Jasper also wanted to come along. They had thought about going home to their villages, but on the other hand, the thought of having an adventure in the southern regions was irresistible to them. And Mortato? Well, he wanted to come along too. As he put it, there's nothing more for me here, so I might as well join you down south. I think the heat will do my old bones some good. And so that's how it turned out. A knight, 3 wizard apprentices, and a castle gnome took off one early morning to the fabulous Suara to find Bellatrix and a Jewel of Lights, and hopefully also Mandigo's sister, Helena. They rode on elegant, strong horses belonging to Count Roban. At first, they were escorted by some of the Count's knights, but when they left his lands, Mandigo's little group had to continue on its own. And yet, they weren't completely alone. The wolf Magdan was always with them. It followed the horses with ease across the landscape. Mandigo's gaze followed the big wolf. Its presence filled his mind with calm and strength. Somehow, he knew that just as he had been there for him from the start, Magdan would also be there to the end, no matter the outcome. End of the book.